I'm allowing me to be me. I'm allowing me to be free. I'm allowing my power. I'm allowing well-being. I'm allowing my path to light up before me. I'm allowing everything to just be as it comes to me. I'm shining brightly. I'm allowing, easily allowing all my dreams to be in the right timing. I'm allowing me to be me. I'm allowing me to be free. I'm allowing my worth. I'm allowing my brilliance. I'm allowing my path to unfold now before me. I'm allowing everything to just be as it comes to me. I'm shining brightly. I'm allowing, easily allowing all my dreams to be in the right timing. I'm allowing me to be me. I'm allowing me to be free. I'm allowing my worth. I'm allowing my brilliance. I'm allowing my path to unfold now before me. I'm allowing everything to just be as it comes to me. I'm shining brightly. I'm allowing, easily allowing all my dreams to be in the right timing. I'm allowing me to be me. I'm allowing me to be free, to be me.
Stephen Bettles has been studying metaphysical traditions and quantum physics for over 35 years. He has a unique way of seeing the world and has an uncanny ability to turn complex information into simple and easy to understand concepts. In this presentation, Path to Your Highest Purpose, Stephen will teach you the process of how to connect to your highest wisdom through a simple step-by-step process that will allow you to become fully aware of your highest purpose in this life quickly and stress-free. Please welcome Stephen Bettles.
Hello and welcome to my presentation, Path to Your Highest Purpose, Live Your Legacy. I'm so excited about sharing this information with you today. Let me just pin myself to the top. This information with you today, and I hope it awakens something deep within you from your inner genius. Our ultimate purpose is to express every amount of energy with coherence of spirit, our spiritual self, our mind, our heart, and our body. A cohesion of full self-awareness. Now, fullness of purpose is the expression of all layers of purpose within us, and I'll talk more about that during the presentation. But now there are many reasons why people like to come along to this event today, and even those reasons are unique in some way. They often fall into one of three categories and are driven by some fundamental core frustration that they might be experiencing. Let me just let some people in the waiting room. Now, the first frustration may be that life is boring and lacks real meaning. The second frustration is that you want to live this elusive thing called your highest purpose, but cannot seem to find it. And the third frustration is that while you belong to a family or a group or a community of some kind, you seek to belong to a tribe of like-minded philosophical people who are on the same path of seeking their highest purpose too. But before we jump into today's event, I'd love to get some, a bit of a feeling how everybody's feeling today. So I'll just go in, and because I want you just to give me some feedback in our Zoom chat box. Now, if you haven't used much in the way of Zoom before, this is you'll find at the bottom of the window there's your links. So click on the chat link if you're on PC, and then what will come up is a little chat window. So you can enter in there, but if you're on the mobile, there's a little more link. So click on that and then it will open up the chat. So click on chat and then there'll be a chat window. So what I'd love to do is get you to give me some feedback as to how you're feeling today. So just in the chat box there, just let me know how you're feeling. I know the internet speeds can sometimes be a little bit. Great, Belinda as well. Fantastic. Now, there's many sort of people dialing in from different places around the place. So if you can also type in the chat box for me, and Patty's feeling great, thanks. I'd also love to know where you're dialing in from, whether that's a location or whether it's from your lounge room. That'd be great to sort of get some feedback on that. From Brisbane, thanks, Patty. Awesome, getting used to this Zoom thing, it's fun. Monbok, fantastic, welcome to the presentations today. Now, at one time, I was a radio and TV presenter for around 12 years, where I interviewed hundreds of personal development presenters, spiritual gurus, sort of alternative health practitioners and the like. And I observed there was a common thread of purpose between all of them. Now, during that time, I discovered there were three core issues that people face. The first one was that people want to live their life fully on purpose, but they don't know how to access it. The second problem or challenge is that people are stuck in a rut, but they know there is more to life. And the third one is people want to connect to a spiritual tribe, if you like, a group of people who are seeking to live their full purpose just like themselves and who are encouraging and supportive. And in that process, might even leave a legacy. And that, of course, is a part of today's topic. And also to find a spiritual mentor. Now, when you reveal your highest purpose to yourself, you will never turn back. It is not given to you or told to you by a psychic or a wise person. You find it and then you own it. Your life will be charged with power and certainty. You will own your highest purpose. It will be a part of you. Now, I constantly say to myself, my purpose is inside me. I'd like you to repeat that after me as well. My purpose is inside me. And to start to feel that as a very strong potential. Now, during my time as a radio and TV presenter, I made a discovery about the nature of your highest purpose. What I discovered is that there are 4 ways that people discover their highest purpose. The first one is that they have a near-death experience, have a spiritual awakening of some kind, and return to their life changed forever. The second one was they have a single traumatic event or significant impact that changes the course of their life. The third one is they had an extremely challenging or traumatic childhood, and they take years to overcome the challenge. And as a result, they develop skills that they express as their highest purpose. And the fourth one is that they arrive over a very long period of time through repetitive but subtle messages that were missed along the way, sort of like whispers in the wind, if you like. Now, my discovery is that there is a systematic way to align your highest purpose without the trauma and without wasting time looking for it. You can access your higher purpose in a relatively short period of time using a very simple step-by-step process that has taken me about 35 years to finally develop. The advantage for you is that you can now access your highest purpose in the next few weeks rather than waste any more time or experience challenges to wake up to its messages. Now let's have a quick look at what I call the flow of consciousness. So we'll just go on to the next slide, and I'll just share my screen with you so you can see what I'm referring to. Now this is what I call the flow of consciousness. You'll see that this is an iceberg floating in the ocean. Most of the iceberg is underneath and going with the flow, and some of it's exposed to the surface. Now, we're going to talk about below the surface and above the surface in this particular example. So when we look at our lower conscious self, because there's 4 layers of consciousness that I'll talk about more in detail shortly, but there's our particular parts of our consciousness are below our awareness, but they're ever present. And there's parts of our consciousness that we are aware of, and even higher parts of our consciousness. So this is just to give you a bit of a feel that there's a flow. So what we're talking about here is the red arrow indicates that there's parts of our consciousness that are actually moved by the movement of humanity, the movement of the way the world operates around us, where we're moved by that flow. And the blue arrow is about the breeze, this elusive thing called the higher perception or the higher consciousness within us that has our highest purpose residing in it. So that gives you a bit of an idea what we're going to start to talk about in terms of a framework. Now, I really appreciate you coming along today, and by staying till the end, I'll be offering a really brilliant bonus for you. So stay with me till the end. So we'll take roughly about an hour, maybe a little bit quicker. So hang around for that special surprise. Now for a little bit more interaction. I'd like you to either raise your hand, or there's no video at the moment, or I'd like you to put a Y in the chat box if you agree with these 3 statements, and I'll do the first one. Would you agree that people like the Dalai Lama and Martin Luther King have changed the world in some way? So just put a Y for yes if you would agree with that comment. Fantastic. Now raise your hand or put a Y in the chat box if you'd like to discover your primary purpose and bring it consciously into your daily life and share it with the world. Is that something that's, well, of course you're here, so that's something that you'll want to do. Beautiful. Now, the third one is raise your hand if you'd like to find your tribe, whatever that means for you. And it means different things for everyone. Getting lots of Y's here, so that's brilliant. So thanks for the feedback. Now, let's have more of a detailed look at this concept that I call the flow of consciousness. So I'll just share that slide with you again. Go through here. So you can see we've changed the below the water and the above the water ideas here. We've changed this to what's underneath the surface is darker or unseen, and what's above the surface is lighter and seen. So using this sort of a metaphor, we're going to go through and understand our layers of consciousness and how we can bring them into our daily lives. The first one is the unconscious, or the flow of social consciousness, otherwise known as the collective unconscious. It's the flow of belief that the society believes that we need to participate in their expectations of us. So just to be aware that that's a part of our conscious layering, the 4 layers. The next one is the subconscious, where we have our memories, and the subconscious records all of our experiences from the time of birth up until present. And that memory is drawn upon as we go through life, as we go through conscious experiences, our subconscious mind throws forward memories of what happened to a similar experience to this last time. And we start to assume that this is what we need to do. We assume that our subconscious mind is actually us, but it's not. It's being of service to us to give us more reference points, to give us an understanding, to give us a framework that we can make very, informed decisions. But the subconscious mind is merely a memory faculty within us that brings forward these memories, but it is not who we are. It is just a tool of our consciousness. Now, moving on, when we look at our conscious awareness, this is who we are at the now moment, in this present moment. This is where our mind state is now. We're observing everything, we're interpreting everything, but messages from our subconscious come into our conscious mind, and we assume that those subconscious messages are our consciousness when they're not. They're just a wonderful gift from our subconscious, giving us reference points. So it's because particularly if we step into a new situation, the conscious mind goes, I haven't had this experience before, and the subconscious brings forward, oh, this is what happened last time. So we want to just be aware of it. We don't want to be controlled by it. And the next thing is our higher consciousness, where we have full enlightenment and where we're fully illuminated. Now, this is like a whisper or a flow of consciousness. What we really want to do is we want to become lighter. We want the iceberg that is us to become even lighter and to start to come out and emerge out of the water even more. So we're influenced by this whisper or this breathe, our consciousness, and we can start to listen to its information that's coming through to us. So understanding these 4 layers of consciousness is really important. Just saying that you're conscious is not enough. You need to understand all 4 layers of consciousness and be aware of them all the time. Initially, it can be a little bit challenging to get your head around this essence or this self-observation, but through the skills that you'll learn through this program is that you'll be able to embrace this very easily, and you'll go, oh, that's my subconscious mind. It's brought forward a memory. So we'll just park that to the side for the moment, and then I'll assess the information around me in consideration with the subconscious mind and make a new, more powerful decision. Now, the whispers from your higher consciousness are calling at you all the time, but you don't hear them because of the clutter of your mind. We need to become a crusader of change within ourselves and then learn to listen for the whispers, then act on them. My entire training program, Path to Your Highest Purpose, Live Your Legacy, is broken up into 2 distinct pathways. The first pathway is an 8-week one-to-one mentoring program with me, where I help you to release all the blockages that are in your lower conscious self. So you overcome the subconscious patterns, you overcome the collective unconscious. You're aware of them, you don't make them wrong, you just become aware of them. The 8-week process is the second pathway, and this is a clearance system that prepares you for the higher levels of consciousness. So when you get into this 8-step on-demand program, this simple and highly effective 8-step system allows you to become aware of a very systematic process that your body will use to allow these higher perceptions to come in. So in as little as 16 weeks, you could be well on track to living your highest purpose instead of waiting long periods of time or experiencing great challenge, which I don't wish on anybody. Today, I'm going to share with you some small parts of the second pathway of the on-demand program with you, so you can see how simple this really is. Because the reality is we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. So if we action some physical actions, we actually allow the spirit to come into our existence even more. But first, let's have a brief look at the 4 themes you will learn when you attend the overall program. So as you can get a bit of a sense what the feeling and what the nature of the training is about. It actually comes in 4 core areas, and we'll talk more about those in detail in a second, but there's 4 core areas or themes of learning that come into a process of fusion. Okay, So each of these four themes are standalone, but they all fuse together into this single layer of understanding. And with all the sort of all the components, the simple components in each of the lessons, there's probably about 3 or 4 skills that you will learn. And at the end of the process, it's basically a 12-minute daily exercise to activate this opening to your highest purpose. Now, here's some insights from some wise people over the ages that are universal truths that assist us today. So let's have a look at these wise people and see what they had to say. The first person was Buddha. Buddha meditated under the Bodhi tree and found enlightenment. He then realized that if he did not go out into the world to share his enlightenment, he would not be truly enlightened. So Buddha said, or Buddha's summary is, wisdom is to be shared. Lao Tse, the father of Taoism, he said, the Tao cannot be known, it can only be lived. So open to your highest virtue. So the summary from Lao Tse is your wisdom lives through you. It's not something you pursue. Then Jesus. Jesus was known for healing people. So what he would do is he would arrive at places and put his hand on people's heads and he would heal them. He would always ask them, do you believe you can be healed? And the person who was there to be healed said, yes. He said, then you are healed. So his message to us was, you are your own healer. And it's through all of his scripts. Then there's Muhammad. Muhammad said, it is better to sit alone than in the company with the bad. And it is better still to sit with the good than sit alone. It is better to be a seeker of knowledge than remain silent. But silence is better than honor. So his summary is, seek wise counsel. Then Krishna. Krishna, it is better to live your own destiny imperfectly than to live an imitation of somebody else's life in perfection. So what does that mean? He said, live your highest purpose now. In fact, all of these people all said these things just in different ways. So these are universal truths that apply to you today. Now, what does this all mean for you? It means that for you to be your highest expression, you need to seek your highest truth. Then take that truth out into the world and slowly share it with people. Not stand on a soapbox, but just naturally share it. And this is your highest state of being. So I'll get you just to ponder that for a moment and get a feeling for that. Awesome. So now let's go and have another look at, I'll fill in the gaps now, for the path to your highest purpose, the 4 pathways. The first pathway is path to awareness. This is where you have full self-observation and you have the ability to observe and interpret the world in a different way. You'll be able to feel people's intentions. You'll hear their words and you'll physically see them, but you'll also feel their intentions. And I'll talk more about that as we go through the presentation. The second part is your path to purpose, where we'll talk about how you have full purpose of all levels of purpose. There's actually 4 levels of purpose, and I'll talk about those more towards the end of the presentation, so as you can understand the layers of purpose that are they're activated all the time, they're working all the time, but it's fused into a coherent whole. Then there's path to connection. It's important to have a supportive community and a coach mentor to lead you through this process of learning. And then path to communication. So have a clarity of communication on multiple levels, particularly mastering communication within yourself, being aware of the 4 levels of consciousness, and they're all fused into a single layer of understanding within yourself. So that gives you like an essence of what the 4 themes are in the program. So it's a fairly themed process. Each lesson, each part of the one-on-one mentoring program with me, and each part of the program incorporates all the aspects weaved through each week. So you're going to be learning little incremental steps along the way, not one, here's a big chunk of information to go, oh, I can't handle it. It's going to allow you to like grow and evolve into this ability to discover your highest purpose. Now, as I mentioned earlier, there are 2 distinct pathways to discover your highest purpose. The first is the one-to-one release of the lower self mentoring program, and the second is the 8-step on-demand training program. So today, I'll share a couple of the simple steps of the on-demand training program now. The first one is what I call energizing your physical self, or activating the spark within you. So what does that mean? So to begin, we will talk about a process of energizing your bioelectric body. Yes, that's what I said, bioelectric body. And to begin the process of connecting to your higher purpose with the other levels of your being. Now, as an observation, in our world today, there are massive personal drains on our energy, physical energy, like emotional energy, mental energy, due to fears and frustrations about the future, like with pandemics, wars, global warming, just to name a few. So people are being polarized and losing their sense of self in all the confusion. People are being trapped in their lower consciousness, which is a deficiency of life force or a lack of spark. The process you will learn now will help you to begin to heal your energetic self and begin to develop clarity and certainty in the world of uncertainty that we're currently experiencing. You will learn to observe the world and not be a victim within it. You will learn the basics to be calm and centered, a life skill that will help you now and well into the future. Now, when we look at most ancient religions, so we'll have a little bit of a look at what sort of things we see in these ancient pictograms, we see that they have these sort of auric emanations. We see an enlightened person with a halo or energy field around their body. They're almost always barefoot and connected to the earth in some way. Sometimes there is imagery of the relationship with the sun, and there is almost always mention of a glow or a white light or a rainbow of color around them. In reality, this energy glow is around you. It's around all of us. We all have this energy glow. Just because these ancients were able to put it in pictorial representation, and even now when you go to big cathedrals, you'll see there's halos around all the beings. This is telling us that we have this halo as well. So we understand that this biofield does exist. So when we look at this energy, when we then look at energy healing like Reiki or pranic healing, spiritual healing and the like, they all mention that this universal life force passes through the physical body of the healer and is shared with those requiring the healing. In fact, this spiritual energy is simply excess electrons. Yes, spiritual healing is simply excess electrons. So with my combination of metaphysics and spirituality or quantum mechanics, I've actually seen that spiritual energy is the excess of electrons from the earth being conducted through the healer's body to the recipient. It is known in science that electrons and light are one in the same energy. So the more electrons flowing through your body, the more light that is apparent. Even though you might not necessarily see it, we are illuminated beings. Now, how does this work? The earth itself has a natural excess of electrons. The electrons have the urge to enter into the atmosphere, but need a catalyst to transfer from the earth into the atmosphere. But the atmosphere itself is more of an insulator to the electrons flowing out of the earth. Much like double glazed windows insulate sound, so too does the atmosphere insulate the earth. Interesting, yeah? The most effective catalyst for the earth to transfer electrons out of the earth into the atmosphere is through water. Yep, water is the best conductor of electrons. So electrons naturally follow the path of least resistance, and water is the best conductor. As an example, you will have experienced this phenomena when you have been near fast-moving water, like a fast-moving river or near the ocean. You feel refreshed and regenerated. That's because the moving water is drawing the electrons out of the earth, and you get charged by those electrons. Like that feeling is just, or particularly in the ocean. I love the ocean breeze. You just feel this like energy. You're just energized. When you leave, you feel completely refreshed and charged. You probably said that to yourself when you've gone to the beach. I feel really charged and really, wow, heightened. There's more clarity. So since your body's comprised of about 60% water, your body can draw healing electrons from the earth simply by your focus, your imagination, your body being hydrated. You have to have a certain level of hydration in your body, And ideally, you're barefoot, you've got no feet, you've got no socks and shoes on, and you're in this state of allowing. You just have this feeling of allowing energy to flow. We're going to go through an exercise in a minute, and all this will make sense then. So when you have this feeling of flow, electrons will be passing up through your body and out through your hands. So as you rise them above your head, what will happen is you'll start to feel an electrical flow. So yeah, just like a copper wire. So when we have a look at this, energizing your physical self, you'll see here's a person standing there with their arms in the air, with their palms facing up. What happens is when you imagine electricity flowing or electrons flowing from the earth up through your body, out through the top of your head and out through your hands, your body actually creates an electromagnetic field. And this field is how people perceive us. This is how people feel our energy. To go in a bit more detail, we're going to literally feel this sense of charging our body, energizing our physical self. And we generally feel this through our hands. So when we stand erect, we'll go through this exercise in a minute. I'm going to show you the principles of it. As we imagine the electrons flowing up our body, it will generally pass out through our hands. But when it comes to our head, it actually concentrates in the skull, because the skull itself is an electromagnetic dome. So as the electrons go up, we cause this electromagnetic field around our body, which is like a wave, like we can feel people at a distance through this wave. But as it comes through the skull into the pineal gland, which is the gland that actually is our primary connection to our higher purpose, it becomes scintillated by the electron flow, and then through the dome effect of the skull, it actually directs all the electrons out in all directions, causing this halo effect. So yes, we actually have a halo effect happening right now. So here's some images to give a bit of a sensation of this. So like, how many times have we had static charge and we've touched a person and we've had a static jolt? That's because our body was charged with electrons. Hands-on healing, generally the healer will be standing barefoot on the floor, drawing electrons through and passing it through to a person. You can also pass these and concentrate these electrons of healing to yourself. And I'll talk more about electrons shortly, but let's just, for this exercise, just go with me on this. And through compassion, you can share your excess electrons with somebody that has a deficiency of electrons. And of course, we can do it from a distance. And here the illustration is sort of, it's an illumination. So now you have a flow of electrons, much like a copper wire. So imagine yourself being a copper wire, and just like a copper wire that has this electromagnetic field, so too does our body have this flow. So we become energized by the visualization. So the visualization is what drives the movement of the electrons. Now, the more powerful the visualization, the more powerful or the more content of electrons passing through your body, and the stronger the electromagnetic field around you, and the more light that emanates from you. It's not seen light, it's felt light through the electromagnetic wave that is around you. This light is invisible, but has a causal effect on your environment. The stronger your electron flow, the stronger the electromagnetic field around your body, and the greater influence on the world you can exert. This electromagnetic web connects you to the physical world. So all you have to do is imagine this flow of electrons that creates the electromagnetic field around your body, which increases your feeling of centeredness. You can walk with inner certainty while being surrounded by uncertainty and remain calm and peaceful. So next, what we're going to do is we're actually going to do this process, right? Not now, but in a minute, I'm going to show you how this process works. So what you do is you stand on the floor. Oops, let's just change cameras. And I'll just put that one down. Thank you for your patience as I learn my Zoom technology. Okay, so effectively, ideally you're bare feet and you're standing on the floor. And what you do is you start to see, imagine yourself, generally I close my eyes for this process and it only takes a couple of seconds. Imagine that your feet are growing roots into the ground and you're starting to draw electrons up through your body. Just imagine the electrons coming up through your body. Now you open your hands so as your fingers are spread, they're not overly stretched, but they're just nice and straight. And you'll stand up And you've seen these pictures before, by the way, in religious texts and those sort of places, is you stand up and you imagine the electrons are passing up through your feet, through your root system, through your feet, up through your torso and out through your hands. And what you'll begin to feel is this flow of energy. So what I'll do is I'll get you to join me now. So if you'd like to stand up as well, whether you've got a camera on or not, a camera on or not, doesn't matter. So stand up and I'll get you to just, so firmly with your feet on the ground, ideally with bare feet. Feel yourself connecting to the earth. Feel that you're sort of becoming, your roots of your body, energetic body, are rooting themselves into the ground, and then start to draw electrons up and through, knowing that your body is made of 60% water and that your body can conduct electricity through your body. And then raise your hands up above your head, keep your head level, and just imagine that flow coming up through your body and out through your hands. And just allow that flow and just concentrate on your breathing. You may find that some of the muscles in your back are a little bit tight, so just let them relax. Just breathe through and relax them, allow them just to relax. And you may begin to start to feel tingles in your hands, tingles between your fingers. Now bring your hands down in front of you and put them in front of your chest. And just imagine that you've got a balloon between your hands. And I get you to gently push in and out, just a couple of centimeters in and out. And you may begin to feel a little bit of attraction and repulsion between your hands as you gently move them. Now, some people, in Qigong, this is called Qi. In Reiki, called Prana. There's numbers of different things that this is called, but essentially, this is electromagnetics. Your physical body is an electromagnetic mechanism. So grab your seat again. Oops, let me choose the right. Going back to my other camera, please come back to my other camera. It's not going to play. Let me just change my camera manually. Okay, great. So what we've done is even though we're surrounded by electromagnetism, we've got our computers and we've got our phones and we've got all those things, we've got this private energetic field. So even while you're sitting there with your feet flat on the ground, you can still play with this energy. You can still work this energy. What happens for me is my hands become blotchy. Under this light, it might be a bit hard to tell, but there's this blotchy element. Now, when you see these little white blotchy elements on your hands, this is actually electrons coming out. So it's just this natural phenomenon that we have, that particularly healers, they're very aware of this particular process. What I'll get you to do now is just for a moment, just close your eyes, and just while you're sitting there, just feel that energy and then start to move your hands across your face. Start to have a sensation of this energy moving through your hands and moving around your being, and that you can actually start to direct it just by your intention and by a consciousness. I always, when I do this, because I do this process all the time, so it's just like, I'm always like buzzing. So hopefully you're experiencing a little bit of buzzing by the process, but because it's a new experience, you may not fully be aware of it just yet. Now, here's some important tips when you're doing this process to make it work even better. So this is a skill, you've just learnt a very basic skill, an energetics skill. So here's some things that you can do to make this process work better if you choose to, to action this after our presentation. Now, this process may not work very well if you're dehydrated. So make sure you're drinking water that is free of chlorine and fluorine. Also eating vegetables, ideally above ground vegetables, because they're richer in electrons, they're more alkaline than rooted vegetables, and your body can become more naturally earthed and alkaline. Now, excess electrons means that it's an alkaline environment, while deficiency of electrons is an acid environment. So what we want is to support our body to hold, or what we need to do to help our body to hold charge, is being alkaline. So we need to think in terms of fullness of electrons. So water that is clean, So no chlorine, no fluorine, because chlorine and fluorine are actually acidic and they leach electrons out of the body. Acidic foods like heavy duty meats and processed foods, they're very acidic and they draw electrons out of the body. They weaken the body to make it weak. So you really want to be focusing on charging the body, or providing the raw materials for the body so it can be charged and strong. Another reason that it might not work for you is that you may not be grounded enough. So take off your shoes and stand on grass. This is the best way to get grounding. If the grass is slightly damp, that's even better, because that's sort of helps to conduct the electricity through your body. Another issue is that if you don't believe this can work for you, your mind will limit the electron flow and you will not feel it. So it is a bit of a faith process, if you like. So allow your mind to relax and trust the flow. Now, this whole process is actually a perfectly normal process. And we as humans have been doing this since humans come into existence. In fact, all animals conduct electricity this way. But the more we focus on it, the more by being aware of it, the flow of electrons becomes more. We can maximize it, where the average person, they're not aware of it. They're just, there's just random flow. But we, through our intention, can make a really strong flow. Therefore, the electromagnetic wave that emanates from us is so much stronger, and the effect we have around the world is much more of an impact. I get you just to sit in that feeling. Something else I'd like to teach you is what I call activating your higher connection, or activating your etheric web. Yes, mystical things. Activating your etheric web, what's that? Well, let's talk about this process of connecting to your higher consciousness, where your highest purpose resides. So your highest purpose sits in that highest part of who you are. So once we understand those 4 layers of consciousness and we begin to open up to it, we can start to hear the whisper more and more. As people, we've lost touch with our spiritual self because of over-governing. We're tending to believe these days that the government will fix everything. Big corporations and social media has, in a lot of ways, diluted our humanity. Our bodies have physically shut down the ability to access the higher levels of our consciousness because of too much acid in our food, water, and air that I mentioned before. Our pineal gland, which is the central gland in the brain, in the skull, this is the gland where the higher self is said to come through. It's actually physically really stressed and being calcified by the exposure of too many toxins. So people are becoming lost in the noise that the world has created. Now, this simple process that I'm going to show you is going to allow you to begin the process of connecting your higher self, or your higher consciousness, to your physical self. And you say to yourself, how does that work? See, in metaphysics, everything is simple. It's extraordinarily simple. So we start to, when we access this higher part of us, the whispers come through much stronger. Now, we've all heard the stories of people who have had near-death experience, and these people report seeing a tube of light going to a place where there are other beings, other entities, where it feels really safe. It feels beautiful. It's this radiant sort of feeling. Or there's generally a ball of white light that they experience, or a rainbow effect, and there's this feeling of home. It's like, I want to stay in this place, whatever this place is, and they don't want to come back to being a human. So in most cases, when this happens, the person, they don't want to return, but they're told, you've got stuff to do back in the earth. So they whip them back pretty quick, and they come back into their body, coming from this place of magnificence and beauty, and they realize there's a purpose that I must fulfill. Now, in metaphysical traditions, the tube that goes back to this place of beauty, this white light, it's known as the etheric web. The etheric web connects all the experiences on earth back to the spirit world. And each one of us has a unique connection back to the spirit world through our own unique etheric web connection. Now, this web connection is much like how the World Wide Web connects us all around the world using electricity. While our electromagnetic web from the first exercise that we talked about, that's another, we'll talk more about webs or the layers of web later in the presentation. But the electromagnetic web from the first exercise allows us to communicate with the other physical or the others in the physical world, this layering of electromagnetism around our body. But the etheric web allows us to communicate to the spirit world through the back of our head. So this next point is super powerful. So I want you to listen to this. Our brain is full of neurons. So it's full of neurons, right? Those neurons are in our body are a dimensional doorway to the higher self within you. So they are the bridge. Your neurons are the light bridge to your highest purpose. So they are the bridge from our physical to our spiritual essence. That's why there's so much talk now about neuron and myelin sheath and those types of brain neurochemistries, because innately within humans, we know it's the bridge to our soul, to our spirit, to everything. Now, to access this etheric web, we first need to philosophically agree to its existence. So I won't get you to put a yes in the chat box. I'll just get you to say within yourself whether you agree that you're a spiritual being having a physical experience. Okay, awesome. So if we haven't had a near-death experience, which probably most of us haven't, and we haven't done deep trance meditation, some of us have probably done deep trance meditation, or some people that do psychedelic experiences. If we haven't done those things, we really don't understand how to access this dimensional doorway. So we need to first default back to this faith mechanism I mentioned, that it is true. And after we've energized our body, as we did in the first exercise with the electrons, really charging our body, we begin to then activate parts of the body that are connected to the spirit through the etheric web. Now, the two activation points that I'm going to talk about, I'll show you and then demonstrate to you how this particular process works. So let me just find my mouse. Oh, there it is there. My mouse went to sleep. So I'll just share my screen. So when we look at our brow, there's actually 3 activation points. The third eye, and in kinesiology, these 2 here are stress release points. But the whole brow is actually an activation point because it activates the pineal deep inside the brain. And then on the back of our head, we've got this little bony protrusion. So so at the back of your head, just feel there's a soft part where the 2 muscles come up, and there's a soft part, and it comes up to bony protrusion. Now, in metaphysical tradition, this bony protrusion is where the higher self, where your soul reincarnates through this point. So when we go back to our slide, so this is our 4th activation point. Now, how do we activate this process? It's pretty straightforward, and you'll go, this is so simple. It's so easy. Metaphysics is when you do these processes, they are really simple, but we're going to be doing things that you wouldn't normally do. They're actions that it's not normal. So I'm going to sort of express to you or explain to you the process. So after you've charged your hands and you've got that energetic field, and because you've already done it, your body will be charged to some degree. So just put your feet flat on the ground, just concentrate on your breathing as we're doing this, and just charge your hands up that little bit. But what I want you to do is, whatever hand you feel appropriate is, for me, it just seems to be my left hand on the back of my skull. So put the center of your palm into that little bony protrusion, and then get your other palm and cover your whole brow, and just put a little bit of pressure, just a little bit of pressure, just to activate those points. And then you rotate your hands. So whatever direction you rotate your hands is entirely up to you. So by rubbing these 4 points simultaneously and focusing on your breath, within about 10 to 15 seconds, when you're not being distracted by a Zoom presentation, you'll actually find, when you're doing this in peace and quiet with yourself, you'll actually find you become a bit lightheaded. So I'll let you just have a little rest there, because you can over-energize these. So if you take your hands down. So I don't know about you, but because I do this process a lot, I immediately go into this altered state of consciousness. And how you know you've entered an altered state of consciousness is that your nose will start to itch. You'll have little itches around your nose. And this is an indication that your brain waves are lowering. So you know that you're getting into the deeper realms of consciousness. So by activating this process, oh gee, that's going to be hard to talk now because I'm so energized. So to activate this etheric web, we need to activate this electromagnetic field around us, and then we rub these points. Now, and it is a slightly firm pressure. You don't want it to be, you don't want it to be air. You want it to be firm, certainty. Because when you're certainty on those activation points, the neurons in your brain actually really fire up. It really activates and really energizes the neural system, and it connects them through the etheric web, through the back of your head, into this higher part of yourself. So this is a really, really simple process because it's something that you wouldn't think to do in normal circumstances. So what I do in the shower every morning after I've had, I've done all my bits and pieces in the shower, I literally stand there in the shower with the shower hitting the back of that bony protrusion. And I literally, for about 30 seconds to a minute, energize my body. I feel the energy flowing through me. I literally feel, and I'll go into more detail in the training, but we do have 3 electromagnetic layers. We've got our close personal electromagnetic layer, our social electromagnetic layer, and then our big world layer. I energize those while I'm in the shower, and it's like a wave. It's like the surface of the ocean. And I also feel this auric energy, glow energy, whatever you'd like to call it, whatever words for you. I feel that energizing as well. And then I activate the higher self. And generally in those instances, I get really powerful inspirations. In fact, a lot of this presentation have come from those inspirations. So you'll be able to awaken to your higher purpose through these simple actions. Now, for those of you who love science, as I do, neurons in your brain are connected to your high consciousness via a quantum wormhole. Yes, a quantum wormhole. So getting into a bit of, la quantum mechanics, that elusive stuff, but it is actually how we connect. It connects into the next level of consciousness that we don't see, but we feel. How often have we gone into situations where we're communicating with a person and we just get given a sort of a message about, and we're just so, it's such a strong feeling. We're so impressed with this feeling, this thing to say to this person, and they go, oh my God, were you reading my mind? This is the sort of energetics that we're actually talking about, is getting into this full awareness, full spectrum, and being peaceful with it and being fully aware. So, sorry, I'm just queuing up my auto cue. So we've already done this. We've already done the process because I went off in a different direction. Okay, so here are some important tips to ensure that this process works even better for you next time. So make sure obviously I've got lights and cameras and action and everything around me, and you've got your computer in front of you. But when you do these processes, make sure that you're in a quiet place away from distractions, so as you're completely centered in your body. The whisper is very subtle, and loud noises will take away from the experience, but you'll hear the whisper if you're quiet. Also, if you do not believe that this is possible, but you're here, so you do, then it won't be. So if you don't, or if you have some doubts, you just got to have trust and faith at the beginning until you experience it more and more, and then it becomes a knowing. The whole purpose behind this is you become so familiar with this flow of energy that you know that it's true for you. So it may not work if you're affected by alcohol. So if you've drank quite a bit, last night, it may have an impact on it. Also, if you're dehydrated, that's going to have a very an impact on it as well, because you really want your body to be fluid and flowing. So while this is a very simple exercise, the results can be very subtle and profound. So the points on your head that you rarely touch in this way, like for example, with this process here, I did it for about 30 seconds before I started the presentation today. I'm learning this process. There's this magical thing called Zoom, and I'm learning how to present to people. I'm learning all these bells and whistles and things, and you can be distracted with things, but I wanted just to center my energy. So this process is actually what I did leading up to this process. And I just said to myself, What will be, will be. So just keep going with your practice and become more comfortable. And also, if you've eaten a large meal, that will hinder the process as well. So when you do these processes, it's actually better like I do in the morning, because I don't generally eat until about midday. I like to do 12-hour fasts every day. So what I find is when I have my shower, I'll have a cup of coffee, but in the shower, I'll do these disciplines while I've got an empty stomach and my whole being is involved in this process. If your mind is excessively active, this is going to hinder your ability to hear the messages that come through. So you really need to be in this meditative place. Okay, great. So there's our first two topics. Now, I'd like to briefly introduce myself because I didn't do that at the beginning. For those of you who have not met me before, my name's Stephen Bettles, yes. And something you may not know about me is that about 35 years ago, I found myself flunking university. Yeah, because I was doing a field of study that I was really good at, but I hated it. So I left university in the first year and started a life with no direction or purpose. So I was really wandered aimlessly. Then about 30 years ago, I decided, I need to do something about this. I wanted to find a purpose. And I started reading personal development books, and I found a spiritual teacher who taught firewalking. And I went to this firewalking convention on the weekend. It was awesome. But during this training, he also taught the concept of we're spiritual beings having a physical experience. Now, I hadn't been exposed to any religious or any spiritual things. And this just like a light went off in my head. Yes. And I was on the quest. During my journey, I learned a lot about myself and about my experience as a young person and started to work through those processes. Then about 20 years ago, I became a presenter on a radio show, then a TV show for a total of 12 years. And over that time, I interviewed hundreds of guests from a variety of backgrounds, including personal development, spirituality, metaphysics, and natural healing. And I observed how these people all lived from a deep-seated purpose within them. And during that time, I discovered there was a major problem in the world where over 90% of people, oh, sorry, I'm going to let Belinda back in the room. She's dropped out. I need to close the waiting room. Sorry, Belinda. I just realized that you're out of the room. Now, during that time, I discovered there's a major problem in the world where over 99% of people are not living from their highest purpose. And their life is like a merry-go-round going around and around, contributing very little to themselves and the people around them. I observe that many of those who found their highest purpose have experienced enormous challenge or adversity. And they've had near-death, so they have had near-death experiences, challenging childhoods, or a life-changing experience that calls into question the meaning of their life. So I asked myself the question, why wait for challenge or adversity to find my highest purpose? Why not find it peacefully and harmoniously now in a simple step-by-step process? So over the 35 years, I've actually developed this really simple system. But, I had it all the time. I just didn't become conscious of it. So that's exactly why I decided to dedicate my life to helping people find their highest purpose and bring this purpose into their daily lives. And I've taken action to empower people to not just exist, but to truly live. So I want you just to listen to that again, to not just exist, but to truly live. So I reviewed my life and found that I've been teaching people these principles one-to-one for over 20 years, but I finally decided to create this program to help more people in a shorter period of time as our world is changing so fast and needs people to become more aware of themselves and more of the world that they live in. So this program is a result of my actions towards helping to create a better world. Yeah, I love this work and feel that since you're here, you probably align to this idea also. I like to say to myself every day, my highest purpose is inside me. So join me if that resonates for you. My highest, and say it to yourself quietly or aloud, my highest purpose is inside me. I might even bring that up on the screen just so as we can share that together. As I learned this wonderful phenomenon called Zoom, my highest purpose is inside me. Thank you. Okay, now, so some of the things you might say about, this training program could be, it won't work for me. Well, fear is faith, it won't work. So what faith do you choose? Do you choose to have faith it will work for you, or do you choose to have the faith of fear? So ponder that, if you will. Also consider that fear is only the fear of change, and change is simply the changing of habits and beliefs, and fear dissipates. And also, the only constant in the universe is change. You might say to yourself, this won't work for me. This program that Stephen's talking about, it won't work for me. If you even felt the smallest energy from the first exercise, imagine what you'll feel when you learn all 8 exercises combined and are put together in a 12-minute power meditation each day. You'll feel fantastic, and you'll feel enlivened, and you'll feel connected with everything, but not affected by it. And you'll say, what is if it costs too much? Well, what is the cost of more lost time worth to you? Time itself is priceless. You need to act. You might say to yourself, I can wait. And I'll say to you, the clock is ticking. Time's actually running out. Your life is running. It's in motion. You know, that's every moment that goes past is one less moment for you to live at your highest purpose. You might say it's too difficult. Well, I'll hold your hand along the way, and the one-to-one release process will actually allow you to be at the point where you'll go, yes, this is possible. I can feel this. See, at the moment, you might have self-doubts, understandable. But when you do the mentoring process, you will be at a steady state where you'll go, yes, I'm ready for this. And then the 8-step on-demand process, where we have fortnightly Q&A sessions to support your growth, you'll just accelerate. You may also say to yourself, I need to ask someone's permission. That's fine. But the reality is no one else can give you access to your highest purpose except you. You alone must decide. Now, remember at the beginning, I said that there was a bit of a surprise hook to keep you here. So I'd like to thank you for staying and supporting my presentation. So remember, by staying a little bit longer, I'll be offering a brilliant bonus. And that's not too far away. Let's look at our time. Oh, gee, I've been talking a lot. Sorry, just look at that. I'm going to have to accelerate through this one now. So last one, we're going to go through this particular slide very, very quickly. This is called the Ages of Destiny. Now, the Ages of Destiny is like where you've got whispers, like your high purpose whispers through to you through life, and it's very subtle. And it comes through at different times, and sometimes it's louder than at other times. But during the whispers, you're generally distracted by life, so you don't hear them. Now, it's like you have single moments in time that are insignificant at the time, but on later review, you realize they were extremely significant. And I call this the calling. So let's whip through these, because obviously I love to talk. So it's called the Ages of Destiny. So the first opportunity comes into your life between your 8th and 10th birthday. And it's like jumping a puddle. So it's a relatively easy process. If you hear the calling and you action the calling, and these are the sort of people called child prodigies. They hear the message and they've got a very supportive environment to achieve this process. Well done, Patty. My highest purpose is inside me. The second opportunity or whisper comes to you. It's just like, the moon going around the earth. The full moon comes in, it waxes in, waxes and wanes out. This is what the Ages of Destiny represent, is that your highest purpose, that whisper, waxes in and waxes out. So the second one is between 20 and 22. It's like jumping a stream. The third one is between your 32nd and 34th birthday, and that's like wading through a small river. So it takes some effort to get through that river. The next one is between your 44th and 46th birthday, and this is like swimming across the Ganges. So that takes a lot of effort to swim across a river of that size. And the last real opportunity is between 56 and 58, and it's like swimming across an ocean. If you haven't heard the whisper by then your assumption might be, well, it's too late. Well, good news is that you can access this whisper at any time with the right skills. And you'll see that 2 of the skills that you've learnt today, they're very basic skills, they're very systematic, and in combination with the other 8 skills, you actually open up to this thing called your highest purpose very easily and very readily. And you'll be quite surprised. It's when I put all of this together, I was blown away with the simplicity of the flow of information that would come to me. and you're just compelled. You just do it. You can't help yourself. So you can have access to these things by overcoming and understanding the lower part of your consciousness, being aware of it, not making it wrong, not making it right, just allowing it to be there, but not being influenced by it, and being consciously in your own genius, your own inner genius, connecting to that high purpose and allowing it to flow through. So that's the overall purpose. Now, I've spoken a lot too early by the looks of it, because we're really right on time. So I'm gonna whip through the last part of the presentation. Now I'm going to mention our surprise bonus. Yes, here we are. What I'm offering is a free 30-minute session to discuss whether you're on track to your higher purpose and what to do next. So whether you do the training or not, my purpose is to assist you to get on purpose. So if you're already on purpose, what can be the next step? So I'm more than happy to share 30 minutes of my time with you to empower that process. So what I'll do is I will just paste that bookings into the chat window. So you'll be able to be able to click on that link or copy that link and go to that part of my website and make a booking for that 30-minute session. For basically, we'll cover any topics that we've covered in this presentation today, and also go through and see how much on purpose, at a scale of 0 to 10, how much on purpose you are and what your next step will be. And that will be my gift to you. Or you can simply pop me an email and we can make a time from there. So I just pop my email in the chat box for you, so you can go through there. So I'd really like to thank you for being in today's presentation. You're more than welcome to hang around. I'm doing a very quick masterclass. The masterclass really probably take about 10 minutes, and that's more additional information of what actually occurs in the on-demand program, how you become the very simple processes, the philosophical understandings, understanding the layers of consciousness at a more universal level. So when you see it, you just go, you'll be able to tell whether a person in the world that's around you is reacting from an energetic level, whether they're reacting from a collective unconscious level or a subconscious level. You'll be able to interpret that information with a lot of clarity. So what we'll do is we'll just have a quick 30-second break to go and top up your water, or to a bathroom break. 30 seconds is probably not for a bathroom break, but let's have a quick 30-second break. And then what we'll do is we'll come back and I'll whip through these topics. We're not going to be doing any, it's not going to be like a workshop type environment. It's just going to be a quick brain dump of information to allow you to really see some of the logical processes that the training will go through. So let's have a 5-minute break. Let's have a 1-minute break, and I'll see you back in a second. Okay, great. That was we whipped through that 1 minute. So if you're in the background, just enjoy the information as it flies through. It's going to be quick because I didn't realize how much I talked earlier in the presentation. So on my review, I will learn a lot about this process. So in this short masterclass, I'll be sharing a couple more topics of interest that is found in the on-demand component, the second stage pathway. It will also, and I'll also be sharing some of the content with you during the 8-week one-to-one mentoring sessions, as and when they're required, just so as they allow your consciousness to rise each time. My intention is to remove barriers of consciousness so as you get higher and higher and higher awareness, because it's just like, climbing Mount Everest. It's a progressive process. You walk up, you acclimatize at that new level, and you have a beautiful view below you. But looking up, all you can see is this sort of like, this grayness, this sort of mountain. So the process that I take you through is an incremental building of your consciousness to get to a higher level. So here's a couple of concepts on the on-demand program that I'm going to share with you. The first one is what I call the 4 levels of purpose. The 4 levels of purpose. I did mention before that there were 4 levels of purpose, and you went, okay, I thought there was just the highest purpose. No, there's 4 levels of purpose. So let's have a look at what they are. There's your highest purpose, which is your level of fulfillment. The next one is your high purpose, which is the leadership part of you. The next one is medium purpose, which is the service part of you. And the next one is low purpose, which is your rest state. So looking at it at expanded view. So your highest purpose, which is your fulfillment, is the enjoyment of life. Now, this is where you can be enjoying life each and every moment when you're on purpose. When your highest purpose is working through you, life is constantly fulfilling and enjoyable. When you're in high purpose, you're in a leadership role, you're either leading a business or an organization, or you're guiding people or directing people, or you're making significant decisions which have an impact on other people. Then there's medium purpose, which is service, which is you might be in the health industry, you might be involved in farming or hospitality, and these are industries where you're being of service to other people, or you might simply be a parent preparing a meal for a child. And then there's low purpose, which is rest, which is a meditative place, a holiday where you're lazing, that sort of like, I'm not doing anything sort of feeling. But what's important to understand here is the layers of leadership, service, and rest. You do those progressively through the day. So you might run your own business, and in the morning you're at your business, and then you'll come home at 5 o'clock, and then you'll be in service mode. You'll be preparing meals for your family. And then you'll drop into rest mode where you'll sit with your partner or whatever, with a loved one, and just watch some Netflix or something. So you'll you'll flex between them. But your highest purpose, your fulfillment, enjoyment of life will be with you every moment of consciousness. It's with you all the time. So the objective is really to live in this higher state of sort of like a bliss. It's like a living presence. You've got this energetic presence. And then you do the other levels of purpose as well. So they're all dovetailed and interweaving together. So it's a really, as simple as this understanding is, will have a profound effect on the way that you function in your life, because you'll feel this, I am on track, I am on purpose. Once you open to it, it's not like, you just go into this bliss state and it's all magically occurring for you. You feel, and everything, all of your actions start to begin to manifest this divine higher purpose within you. So you start to change. Like, here's an example. I used to have a salt lamp business. I imported salt lamps, and it was a really successful business. I did it for about 14 years, but it wasn't my highest purpose. It wasn't giving me the true fulfillment that I wanted. So I started to migrate out of that business into a salt therapy business. So I could manage my time better. I had more control of my time. Whereas the salt lamp business, I was always trapped in it. I had to be there 60 hours a week to pack orders and to manage staff. And it was like, I didn't have any freedom. I didn't have any rest, particularly. There was no rest purpose there. So then through inspiration, what else can I do? I opened up to myself and I started my salt therapy business, and I moved away the salt lamp business. And as a result, now I really, life is not work for me. Life is just this really gentle meandering. I've got to be organized. I've got to be structured. I've got to take leadership. I've got to be a service. There's times where I rest, but I'm living this really enjoyable life that, when I look back 20 years ago, life was chaotic and hectic. So understanding the layers of purpose, and that in a 24-hour period, you can start to bring them all, and you can literally say to yourself, right now I'm living my leadership purpose, and right now I'm living my service purpose, and right now I'm living my rest purpose, all living your highest purpose all simultaneously. Now, the next point, no. My auto cue has got a mind of its own. It's just taken off on me. So yeah, we're going to talk about coherence. I was actually going to do a quote by Wayne Dyer, D-Y-E-R. Wayne said, "Don't die with your music still inside you." Don't die with your music still inside you. So while you are doing life, are you living life? Are you truly living your your real essence? Is it being expressed? Are you creating that legacy, or are you being that legacy now? Okay, moving right along. I think we've got 2 more topics to go, and then we're finished for the day. So in this one, we're going to talk about coherence, because I mentioned the word coherence before, and you go, coherence. Well, coherence is when there is a coherent flow between your spirit, your higher essence. So allowing this coherence between your spirit, your mind, your body, and the whole essence of who you are. So it's sort of like understanding your connection to the earth, and the earth provides you your nutrition, your water. Your higher self provides you with this highest purpose. There's also this energetic connection called the astral shield. I haven't talked about it in this. We'll talk more about this astral shield in the training program. It gives you a very strong level of self-identity and self-awareness. And then the electromagnetic field around you, which allows you to feel the energy of the environment around you. There's the 3 layers. There's your personal layer of energy. Then there's your social layer of energy. Then there's the rest of the world layer of energy. So coherence is this beautiful marriage between all of these different layers of energy between you. And you become aware. Like the more that you understand and feel these energies, the more that it's sort of like the Chinese medicine practitioner, they listen to your pulse, and they'll go, oh, your meridian to the left is not working properly. We need to magnify that more. So we'll give you these particular herbs. And so they got their finger on the pulse. So what will happen for you is that you'll have your finger on the pulse of the people around you energetically, and also living through this feeling of this highest purpose. And people start to respond to you in really, really unique ways. So, I missed one part of that presentation, which was the mind process. Yes, but we'll move on to the next topic. So this is the web. So what is a web? It's something formed by, or as if by weaving or interweaving. So you look at the internet, it's an interweaving. You look at a spider's web, it's interweaving. So we're going to talk about the 4 layers of interweaving that we as a human organism experience, because we're weaved into a lot of things. And sometimes when things happen, we say to ourselves, why did that happen? So when you start to become aware of these weaving factors or these energies around us, you'll be able to become more conscious of where that energy is coming from, and then choose whether you want to participate in it or not. So the first one is the etheric web, the connection to spirit. We spoke about that before. Then there's the mental web, which is the brain neurons, which is the dimensional doorway between your body and your spirit. Then there's the feeling web. I like to just, the image of this droplet on a flat surface of water, the wave that ripples out. That's the wave that ripples out from our heart space. And then our collective web, the collective unconscious. So, we get trapped with that web of people sometimes. So just to understand those 4 levels of web that is surrounding us, and we can decipher which one do we want to tune into. Sometimes we want to connect into the collective unconscious, and we want to do the right thing. Sometimes, we feel compelled. Okay, well, let's be involved in that. Sometimes we want to be in our brain web, and the brain web, I haven't really talked much about it here, but with some of the imagery that I showed you before, this is where there's an oxymoron going on. Here's one of the metaphysical things. We assume that space is 3-dimensional, and we assume time is linear. Well, in metaphysics, it's the opposite. In space, through the electromagnetic field that emanates from our being, from our body, it's actually linear. It's like the surface of water. If we were at the beach and we were up, waist or chest height in the water, that's essentially the wave of connection between everybody. It's a linear process. It is a linear plane. But with our mind, we're 3-dimensional. Time is 3-dimensional, because when we do, we'll go and visit our past timeline. We'll go and visit our future timeline. There never is, when people go through and when they look at their past timeline, it's never directly behind them in a straight line. It can be back to the right, it can be up over to the left, it can be in all sorts of directions. And if they look at their future timeline, that's off in all different directions as well. That's because time is 3-dimensional, and whichever path we choose and whichever direction we create in our mind, that's where we go. That's where we direct our consciousness. So I know it's an oxymoron, but we talk more about that in the training. So without going into too much more detail on that one. And then just to quickly look again at the 4 themes that you learn during the training program is the path to awareness, path to purpose, path to connection, and path to communication. All beautiful sort of symbols. So just to wrap up, where are we? We're 1 hour, 15 minutes. Beautiful, on time. So just to go through and just to remind you that I really appreciate you sticking around for the presentation. Just to remind you that you've got your free 30-minute presentation to discuss where you are on track for your highest purpose and what you can do next, whether you get involved with my program or whether you take a powerful step towards your future. So that's the link to make bookings. And also what I'd like to do is for feedback for my Zoom learning presentations. I'd love it if you can go to my feedback link, which I'll put into the chat box now. And it's just a series of check boxes. There's nothing really complicated about it. I'd love to get some feedback. Take you probably 3 or 4 minutes. Just go read the question. Is it this one, this one, this one? Check, check, check. And maybe if you can leave a little bit of feedback for me, that would be fantastic because it'll allow me to improve my presentation. Because the first part of my presentation, I definitely went over time, and I've culled the masterclass quite a bit because I really want to stick around that 1 hour, 20 minutes. But just before we do finish, and I'll say my final thank yous, is there any questions? I've always got to allow room for questions towards the end. So if you've got any questions, just type it in the chat box. Just give you a couple of seconds there to post any questions if you have any. Or give me a nod. Or turn your head in circles. And I think my audio feed's good. Are you typing a question, Patty? Oh, beautiful. Can you activate the 4 energy points we did on someone else for them? For example, a mother to a child. If the child, this is when we start getting into metaphysics and personal responsibility. It's a great question. If the child is under the age of 13, then we can do it for the child. If the child is, why is that? Because in mystical philosophy, the rite of passage is the age of 13. I took my eldest son through his rite of passage when he turned 13, when they transfer from childhood into adulthood. So if they're under 13, energetically, they're in your field of expression. So yes, you can do it. Over 13, you can teach them. So you can show them. You know, you might do it in front of them. They go, "What are you doing, Mum?" "I'm just connecting to my etheric web." And they'll go, "What?" And then you can teach them that process, because children do love to learn from their elders. You know, that energy still exists in our society. So yeah, you can absolutely do that. To do it for a parent, in metaphysical traditions, you try and avoid imposing your will on another person. Even though you see what is good for them, you resonate it from your electromagnetic field, resonate it out. And if they're sensitive enough, they'll go, "Is there something you need to tell me?" Or they might pose a really interesting question. You go, "Oh, that's interesting. I was at this presentation the other day on how to connect." Like, you know, who'd think, you know, like, so when it comes with your children, absolutely below the age of 13, above 13 to 21, which is their initiation to adulthood, then you can share that information. But to other adults, generally don't impose your will, because what happens when you impose your will on other people, you start to become imbued in their karma. If you believe in karma, let's call it, if their energetic field, their electromagnetic field has imbalances and disturbances in it, and you impose your will on that person, those resonant frequencies become a part of you. So there's a scientific view and there's a metaphysical view. So 13-year-old male or female, doesn't matter. Well, the only thing that I found is by doing that, activating the etheric web, is that I've never been able to do my hands in opposite directions. They've always been in the same direction. But what I find is that when I do it that way, I go circles that way, if that makes sense. But if I turn my hands around, I do it the opposite way, what feels best. So it's what feels best for you, not what I say, but what feels best for you. And that's the beauty of all these simple technologies, simple techniques, is that you can really empower yourself using bits and pieces, and you can mold it to serve you. Because essentially, you are a spiritual being having a physical experience. So you can use your genius and your brilliance to mold these actions to serve you. But be mindful of how you share this information with other people. If there's no further questions, Belinda, do you have a question? Or just type if you don't have a question, just type a no in the chat box. And we're finished. We're at 1 hour and 20 minutes. Excellent. Thank you so much for your participation today. I've absolutely loved this presentation. I am living my highest purpose. A little bit of emotion comes up with that. It's been a long time in the making. So thank you so much. Blessings to you, and enjoy the rest of your day, and may you open to your highest purpose. Blessings and peace. Thank you.